Hi everyone, welcome back to the GDPR series. In this session, we are going to cover the Article 7 in detail. Article 7 covers 4 clauses which explains the conditions of consent to process the personal data. We will explain it today with the help of interesting examples. So let's begin. I, Nikita Jain, the data privacy analyst, along with Shreya Jain, who is a certified CIPPE, have worked together to bring you this quick explainer of Article 7. This will help you in understanding the basic nuances and clauses of conditions for consent. Now, before we delve into the conditions for consent, it is crucial to first understand the definition of consent. The definition of consent is provided by GDPR under Article 4. Let's go over the 4 most important elements that are given under Article 4 that explains the consent. Now, first one is that the data subject should give the consent freely, which means that no organization can force directly or indirectly any user to consent. Second element is that the consent has to be an informed consent. Now, if you're agreeing to something, it is natural that you'd want to know what you're agreeing to, right? If the organization is withholding information related to what you're agreeing to, it cannot be called a valid consent. Now moving on to the next element is that consent has to be specific. This is most important because it ensures that organizations are maintaining transparency about what they are intending to do with the user's data. The last but not the least element which organizations and companies or whoever is collecting personal data is that consent shouldn't be ambiguous. What it means is that there should not be absolutely no doubt that if individuals have authorized the processing or sharing of their information. Now coming on to Article 7 now, which adds to consent. Now that we've understood how consent has to be taken and what elements it should have, we will now move on to the conditions for consent. There are broadly 4 conditions that we will be quickly going through. To understand Article 7, let's kick off with the first clause, that is Article 7(1) of GDPR, which states that the data controller must be able to demonstrate that they have obtained data subjects' valid consent. Now, let's understand it through an example. Let's imagine that there is a person named Lisa and she just downloaded a new fitness app to track her workouts and health goals daily. Now during sign up, this application that she downloaded asks Lisa for her health data like heart rate, steps and sleep patterns. But here's the thing, health data is a sensitive personal data under GDPR. So explicit informed consent is very important over here. Now 3 months later, Lisa wonders, did I even agree to share all of this? Now, if she asks, the app needs to show following things, which are that the date of consent, the form of consent, and the purpose of consent. And if the application is not able to show that, then it may be that there is no proof of consent that the application is recording. So any organization who is collecting the consent, it's very important that they collect and store the proof of consent as well. Now let's understand the clause 2 of Article 7, which is clarity in written forms. The second clause of Article 7 says that the company requires consent for more than matter, that the consent has to be taken in such a way that one matter can be differentiated from the other matter. I know it's very complicated, but let's understand this better through an example. Let's imagine that you downloaded a shopping app to browse and buy clothes. But before you can use it, a pop-up says, by using this app, you agree to share your entire purchase history with third-party advertisers. Now you can't proceed unless you accept. No other option, no skip, no choice. Now this can't be a valid consent. Why? Because this is not a freely given consent. You are being forced to agree to sharing data for ads just to access the basic service. And sharing your data with advertisers is not necessary for the core function of shopping, right? Now there is no real choice over here. It's accept or go away. Now this is what bundled consent is, and it's prohibited by Article 7.2. That means that there has to be a clarity in written forms, and if consent is mixed in other stuff, it must be separate, clear and understandable. Otherwise, it will not be a valid consent. Now moving on to the third clause of Article 7, let's talk about one of the most important rights under GDPR, that is withdrawing the consent. Many people think that once they give consent, that's it. The company can keep their data forever. But that's not true. Every individual has the right to take back their consent at any time, and it should be just as easy to withdraw as it was to give it. For example, if someone clicked a checkbox to agree, they should be able to undo it just as easily, maybe by turning off a toggle in their settings, etc. There shouldn't be any long emails, phone calls, or complicated steps required to withdraw your consent. It should be simple and clear. Simple in, simple out, and that's the rule. So, this is called the right to withdraw your consent. Finally, we have come to the last clause of Article 7, which is which broadly tells us that if a user is giving consent, and in that if there's any pressure, imbalance of power, or if the person doesn't really have a choice in giving the consent, then that consent is not valid as per Article 7 clause 4 of GDPR, which means that there should not be any forced consent, right? And any element of inappropriate pressure or influence upon the user which prevents a data subject from exercising their free will shall render the consent invalid. Now, to understand this clause a little better, we will explain it with the help of an example. Imagine a job portal that says you can only apply to jobs if you agree to share your resume with the marketing partners for the ads purposes. Now that's called a bundle consent, which means where the data controllers tie the services, which is in this case job applications, to something unrelated, which is ads. Since applying for jobs has nothing to do with ads, this creates an undue pressure, which cannot be a valid or freely given consent. Now, if you see closely, it's also unfair, right? Because there's no separate option to choose just a job feature. This is where the imbalance of power kicks in. You're kind of just forced to say yes, or you just miss out on the job. Now, that's also not a real choice. Now, it's important to reiterate here again that consent has to be clear, informed and granular. Granular consent, what it means? It means that users should be able to choose what they want to share, with whom they want to share, instead of just being boxed into an all or nothing situation. So remember, true consent isn't just about clicking I agree. It's about a real freedom to choose. This marks the end of Article 7 Explainer in the GDPR series. In our upcoming videos, we will be discussing important topics such as conditions for processing a child's personal data and data subject rights. Thank you everyone for watching our quick explainer for Article 7. We explained all the 4 clauses of Article 7 with detailed examples. I hope that you enjoyed learning the Article 7 of GDPR. And if you did, then please like and subscribe our channel for more such videos where we deep dive into privacy related issues and information security issues.